Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how to master defensive type Beyblades. Now for me, when it comes to defensive type Beyblades, I see that a lot of people underestimate them, and it is a shame because there are a lot of good defensive type Beyblades out there. And so in this video we're going to explore the strengths, the weaknesses, and how to master them to win more battles. Before we start guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, it will be much appreciated. Okay, so first off, let's go over a few strengths of using a defensive type Beyblade. And so the first strength we can talk about is their robust design. Now obviously when it comes to defensive type Beyblades, their main strength is their defense, but their robust design is what allows them to have a really strong defense in Bey battles. And so this robust design that allows them to have so much defense in battle is what I like to call the mushroom top. If you look at most defensive type Beyblades, you can see they're kind of shaped like mushrooms. Now there is a reason for that, and it's because it allows them to give them the best chance to deflect attacks. Now of course not every defensive type Beyblade will have this mushroom shaped design. For example, if you look up Assault Horogium, which is one of the strongest defensive type Beyblades in the Metal Saga, you can see that its shape is a lot different. But in general, this mushroom shaped design is what allows defensive type Beyblades to deflect attacks so well. Another great strength of defensive type Beyblades is their heavyweight and their balance. Their heavyweight and balance design allows them to maintain spin longer during battle, and also allows them to not be destabilized easily by opponents. Because of their heavyweight and strong balance, they can easily knock out opponents by deflecting their attacks. However, if they are unable to get a knockout early during the battle, then they can easily play the stamina game, which makes attack type Beyblades their worst nightmares. Now that we've talked about their strengths, let's go over a few weaknesses of defense type Beyblades. Now one main weakness defensive type Beyblades have, that's also kind of their strength, is that they have high recoil. Now yes, they're able to shield against Beyblades because of their high recoil, but this also means they can be pushed out the stadium themselves because of this recoil, especially if a Beyblade is very aggressive and has very strong attack in battle. And so you can imagine having a defensive type Beyblade with high recoil, but is also very light in weight, is a recipe for disaster. And so hence why it's important when customizing a defensive type Beyblade that yes, you have good recoil and you're able to deflect attacks, but you also have good balance and center of gravity of its weight. Another weakness is that it can often be outspun by stamina type Beyblades, especially if defensive type Beyblades don't have traditional defensive type parts. When we think of defensive type parts, we often think of that round symmetrical attack ring or layer, or even something like the ball tip. And so these parts are actually amazing as they are. However, if you were to take a Beyblade like Jade Jupiter, which is a defensive type Beyblade from the Metal Saga series, you can see that it has a ball tip, but it's made out of rubber. And because that is made out of rubber, it instantly loses a lot of stamina, which makes Jade Jupiter not the best defensive type Beyblade, because one component of a defensive type Beyblade is having decent stamina. And so if you were to switch Jade Jupiter's rubber ball tip with a classic ball tip, you find that it has a much better performance in battle. Now let's move on to some strategies that you can do to get the best out of your defensive type Beyblade. And the first thing we should talk about, which affects all types of Beyblades, is how you launch. Now with most defensive type Beyblades, you simply want to have a super flat launch and aim for the middle of the stadium. By doing this and taking up the middle of the stadium, you're now in the best position to defend. Remember, our main strengths are our balance and being able to deflect opponents away. So launching our Beyblade at a slight angle or even attempting a sliding shot isn't the best route to go when using a defensive type Beyblade. Instead, you want to keep your launch really flat, and that will give your Beyblade the best chance of winning because it will be at its most balanced state. Now of course, there are some defensive type Beyblades that do have a bit of movement and can be aggressive in the stadium, and therefore by all means you can do a sliding shot or angle launch and switch up your strategy. And I have done that with more aggressive defensive type Beyblades and it has worked well. But in general, for most defensive type Beyblades that aren't as aggressive, you just want to keep a nice and simple flat launch and aim for the middle of the stadium. Another tip when using defensive type Beyblades that is quite interesting is that you don't want to launch your Beyblade super hard. If you do launch your Beyblade really hard, you're then not allowing that recoil to come into effect, and therefore won't be able to deflect opponents as easily. Instead, try using a moderate powered launch, and if you're struggling to gauge your launch from a string launcher, I suggest try using a ripcord. You're pretty much able to put as hard as you want when using a ripcord, and that should give you the right power you need when using defensive type Beyblade. To be honest, you can experiment with this tip. It doesn't really affect your battles too badly. I have done it a few times myself and it has worked pretty well, to be honest. And so guys, that's pretty much it when it comes to using defensive type Beyblades. The key things you want to remember is to keep your launch flat and to aim for the middle of the stadium. And if you're ever trying to customize and make a good defensive type Beyblade, just think of a heavy mushroom. As always guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.